my first question would be for you, Michael. I wanted to ask you, when did this story start interesting you? Kind of the genesis of Blackhat, really.
The genesis was twofold. One, I was interested in doing something in Asia, but the real genesis is when I went to Washington and started talking to folks there about cyber intrusions and cyber theft and what was happening in the world. And it was kind of an eye-opening experience that the way we live our lives is, the way we think our lives are, the way we live our lives is not really the way they are anymore, that we're porous and we're vulnerable to intrusions from everywhere, and we just don't know it. It's kind of like we're in a house without, doors and windows in a dangerous neighborhood, and we don't know it. And the extent of it was widespread, and it was a hot button issue in Washington a couple years ago, 2-3 years ago. And we came back to Los Angeles and started talking about it, and people didn't know what we were talking about. So. But that's kind of where it began, and then from there it went right to, okay, who's the guy, who's the main character, and and to try and learn everything there is to know about Black Hat hackers, what motivates them, what the exalted experience is, and you just got done talking to two guys who are quite extraordinary. They gave you some kind of a sense of that.
Thank you. And a question for all of you. Really, what appealed to you about this project as actors that made you want to be a part of it? I'll start with you, Chris.
Michael did, Michael's one of my favourite filmmakers, and I've grown up watching his films, and so even before I'd read the script, I was pretty much diving into the thing. But then read the script, and it was a subject that I certainly hadn't been involved in on screen. But my life, was something that was fairly new to me. I was pretty limited in my digital cyber involvement, and it fascinated me. As Michael said, it was something that a couple of years ago, when we were researching the film, did exist. All the things are in the news now, but wasn't as public. And the idea that we are as vulnerable as you say, and as the film talks about, was something that I wanted to learn more about and jump into that opportunity.
Viola?
I can only repeat what Chris said. I wanted to work with Michael Mann. I did. I want to work with him. I wanted to be a part of anything that he was directing. I think that you always want to gravitate towards people who absolutely are great at what they do and go for authenticity. And cyber terrorism was a subject matter that fascinated me also. I mean, listen, I remember playing an FBI agent many moons ago, and I sat with some FBI agents, and they said cyber terrorism was more potent than actual, terrorist attacks. And I thought to myself, wow. And it was something I wanted to learn more about. So, and exotic locations did appeal to me also. And all of that.
Tang, sorry, Michael. Did you want to say something? Tang Wei, could you talk about why you wanted to be in the movie? What excited you about this opportunity?
Everybody sitting here is more than the reason, more than some words I can say. Everybody here, of course. And also, I never do this kind of part. Usually, I work in an art movie, very dramatic, the feminine. But this time, it's the first time I do a very independent spirit, and also very tough and computer engineer and computer expert. That's very interesting. So I want to try, and very good experience.
And then, if you're me, you get to work with this great family. So.
Wang, Leehom?
I just have to echo what everyone else has said about Michael Mann being one of the greatest directors ever, and to be able to work with him, to get the call from a casting director saying that there's a role for an Asian male who speaks English with an American accent. I was like, is this for real? Is this a prank? Is this a prank call? And there's a no, it's a really meaty role. And I'm like, okay, tell me how to audition, tell me how to sign up. And that was the beginning of an incredible, life-changing experience.
We just spoke with the cyber experts a few minutes ago, and I'm just wondering, because we understand you had a chance to speak to some of them prior to production and everything. Have each of you gone and changed your passwords, made them more complicated, and what did you learn from them? And is there something that you could use in your own personal life that you picked up from these guys?
Well, yeah. The first thing is they were with us. We do a kind of immersive preparation to get into character. And that starts many, many, many months before we start shooting. So whether it's learning coding, or Viola learning, she visited Michelle Leonard, the DEA, learning women in law enforcement and attitudes. I mean, you pick up how somebody thinks, what their attitudes are, what their background is, how they walk, how they talk, how they drink a cup of coffee. It's so rich, So it's always a great idea to, from my point of view, to work with actors who were turned on, as all these folks are, by that same thing of that kind of immersive research. And from these guys specifically, it was coding from Panico. It was different kinds of hacking from Chris McKinley spent time with Chris, so Chris could, write code. Polson had experience as a Blackhat hacker. And that's, how Leehom and Chris and Tang all interacted, with these folks. We heard in Washington after, 2 years ago that I said, am I being paranoid and not wanting to take a laptop to where we're going to look for locations? And they said, none of us ever take our laptops to where we go look for locations. So people who've been in the know have understood the threat for a long time.
Chris, would you like that?
Yeah, I mean, as Michael said about learning how to write code and understanding the brain of the computer and all that, which was new to me. But I remember asking one of the guys, I said, knowing what you know, because it became evident pretty quick that we knew nothing, or the majority of us knew nothing compared to what these guys knew. And I said, knowing what you know, you exist behind the curtain, so to speak, and you see behind the curtain. Do you look at the world differently? Do you feel you have an upper hand? And he just started laughing. He said, man, people have no idea how exposed they are and vulnerable and what's possible. And that's it. That's the power now is the brain. It's, not just in the criminal world, but anywhere is that they're the guys that are the superheroes, and that sort of highly intelligent, alien type advancement that these guys seem to have within themselves was something that every day impressed me, and a lot of different things I'd pick up,
Anybody else want to comment on what you learned from these experts in preparing your roles?
Just that I'm a sitting duck.
Yeah, exactly.
No, seriously. I mean, I wish I could say more, but I'm a sitting duck because I can't get ahead of them. They're far ahead of me. I mean, yeah, that's what I learned, how vulnerable we are. It's a big, silent monster out there. That's what it feels like. Yeah.
I have another question over there.
Yes. First of all, congratulations to all of you on a terrific film. I really enjoyed it. And for Mr. Mann, I wanted to ask you, why were these the best actors to tell your story? Why were these the best actors to tell your story?
Well, that becomes individual. The choice of each individual is the casting process, and lots of times, I conceived of Hathaway as a guy from a working class neighborhood in the south side of Chicago, whose father was a steel worker, because I knew people like that in the 70s, particularly a guy named Ed Sadlowski, who was a very progressive labor leader in Chicago. And, there was just a quality of a certain, very bright, very direct, very centered. And, I was sitting with Chris in Costa Rica, and we were just talking, and he didn't know this, but I'm thinking, this is the guy. And it has to do with natively who, Chris is, plus Chris is, enthusiasm for the kind of immersion in a character that then took us to Statesville Prison and blast furnaces at U.S. Steel at 4 in the morning, and his willingness to kind of lose himself into the moment, which all directors look at, and Leehom, Tang Wei, Leehom is brilliant, and he's a great musician, and there's this precision and an intellect, and he just fit exactly who I had in mind for Chen. And Tang Wei, within 5 minutes of meeting her in Hong Kong, I knew that she was Lian, and I was asking myself, do I want to let her on that I've already just made the decision, because she's very close to who Lian is as a character. There are very few women programmers in China, and there are even fewer network engineers. And so it kind of bespeaks a certain independence and strong individuality, and that's who Tang Wei is. Viola goes without saying. I mean, Viola is a great, great, great actress, and so I was very fortunate to work with her. But these are all individual casting decisions you make. You make them on every picture.
Hi, this question is for Michael. 2009 was your last film, so we kind of missed you on the big screen.
Pardon me?
We missed you on the big screen. Your last film was in 2009 with Public Enemies. So we're wondering if you had taken a break, or this is a project you've been working on for a couple of years. And
well,
for the
both. I did, after Public Enemies, we did Luck for almost 2 years, and then from Luck I started working on 3 screenplays, of which this is one. We were in Washington when the story really occurred, to us on August 8th, 2011. So I've been on this for 3.5 years.
And then for the actors, what's your favorite Michael Mann movie? Prior.
Blackhat. Yeah. Last of the Mohicans.
Sorry, my question is for Leehom and Tang Wei. So Tang Wei, I understand that this is your first action and thriller movies. So I was wondering which one is the challenge? Is the language that you have to say a lot of English dialogue, or is actually the physical and traveling to shoot the film? And Leehom, my question is, so congratulations for the daughter, and right now you're a married man and a father. I was wondering, will you do more films in Hollywood in the future, or maybe still focus on your music career?
What were the challenges of working in the film and also the language?
Definitely, of course, that's not my mother tongue. Even just like Cantonese, I speak very fluent Cantonese, but when I'm doing a movie in Cantonese, I still have problem. Yeah, but English, I think, I love language. I love learn languages. Like actually, computer code, it's another language as well. So that's why I'm really curious to join this movie, what I can learn. And yeah, through the movie, I think more about is how great the experience to work with Michael and Chris and Leehom and Viola. So language getting the second thing. So the experience work with such an amazing team is more important, and I got a lot. And about travel, I would say I travel quite a lot. I'm very used to it, like flying around the earth. It's very used to it. I think we all similar. Yeah. Thank you.
Music and movies are both so important to me, and I started off as a musician, and I'm doing more movies now, but I haven't given up the music either, and I also should add that Michael is an amazing musical. I feel like every day that we're on set and we're improvising, it's like a jazz session, and we're moving the camera around and changing lines and doing things differently, and it's like, he's getting these really real reactions out of it, and you just kind of like have to have faith in the whole process and let go. And I was telling Michael the other day, like Act 3 felt like Ravel's Bolero, it's like it was this magnum opus. It's like a symphony. If you listen to the music in Blackhat, and how the music drives the movie, especially in Act 3, I think it's really something special. Coming from my background, it really stood out to me.
Yeah, but then when we're recording ADR, if those of you who know what that is, additional dialogue recording that you do in post, and Leehom put something down. We said, well, great, this would be great, but we just have to split the word. And while the dialogue editor was struggling with the Pro Tools, Leehom kind of took over the Pro Tools, and he did all the editing himself. So.
We have a question over here.
It didn't cost him his job.
Good afternoon. Mr. Mann, for you, you've directed some of, in my opinion, the greatest crime dramas of the last 30 years. Entering the world of cybercrime with this film, could you talk about how you were able to marry your style of storytelling and shooting with the world of cybercrime and really create a new genre of the cybercrime genre film?
Yeah, thank you very much. If we all were successful in doing that, that'd be great. First of all, when you asked in the beginning what kind of motivated you to do this, or what was the beginning? First of all, it takes place in our world as it is right now, right on the cutting edge of this moment, and everything. The interconnectedness of all things, everything interconnected with everything else. That's the world we live in now. It's never going to go back to being the way it used to be. And you have a convicted Blackhat hacker who's got a conditional release from federal prison to pursue a cyber criminal adversary, a guy who's high-speed, dangerous, world-class. He's a ghost. He's out there somewhere. They don't know who he is, where he is, why he's doing what he's doing. And in so doing, Hathaway is trying to outrun his past and, kind of take control of a future that he may have, he may not have. It's agented by his pal, who he went to MIT with, who could not have come from a more different world. And Shen's sister, who's a network engineer, candid and spontaneous. And in a unit with Barrett, who engineered this, and then feels like she's being played, and it sets up a conflict among this group, which then resolves itself into them being very unified, and they move forward in what's really kind of a detective story. But the thrill in making it was that the tropes of the mechanics of the storytelling, it was an opportunity to also pull them out of the very current world we live in right now. So rather than something you might have done 20 years ago, when they're trying to find out the location of where a guy may be, where you might interrogate an informant, instead of that, Barrett and Hemsworth and Hathaway con a guy in the NSA to download a password, and he's downloading a PDF. Hathaway's able to get in, download some software, restore some code from the Chaiwan reactor, and what does he get? He gets a location. Still don't know who the guy is, where he is, what he's doing, but they know that this guy's command and control server is in Jakarta, Indonesia. That's a clue. So the storytelling itself was also, we were able to take it. I found that very exciting to be able to pull that together, where you can tell the storytelling itself is taken from that same world of, the immediate right now, as it were.
Chris, you're part of a long-term project where you have to keep your body in great physical shape. Did that inform Hathaway's philosophy of training his body as well as his mind in prison? And also, how did you come to the voice of Hathaway?
The training for this was, I always, once I'm done with Thor, want to get rid of that bulk and that size, because that just sort of screams that character. But I wanted to do my training, instead of just running on the treadmill and trying to get rid of the weight, mainly built in some sort of martial arts. And I'd boxed a lot in the past and done a lot of Muay Thai. And me and Michael talked about, the time he'd spent in prison. You go in one person and come out another. And through those experiences, he was going to be able to physically be able to handle himself. And that was, whether that was from his kind of background he'd grown up in or not, but certainly what his experiences were in prison. But the voice, we spent a number of days in Chicago, and then there were endless kind of conversations between Michael and I, and working with dialect coaches, and it became more an attitude, I think, than anything else. You know, there was the structural sound to it and the phonetics and what have you, but the way this guy spoke and the rhythm to his speak, you know, we'd picked up things from friends of Michael's in Chicago. Also, we went to certain prisons and spoke with people the way guys in prison speak, and there's a rhythm and a bounce, and that indicated it. But you know, Michael was, I mean, I had dialect coaches, but Michael was my kind of guide. You know, he was from the place and knew what he was after.
Because of my perfect British accent.
It's all right. Michael's from Australia.
The experts that we had here before were all talking about how authentic and how that was so important to you, that this was really authentic. And it's true, this is now. But I also wanted to say that the film is visually authentic. It's stunning. And you actually went to these countries and shot in over 70 locations. Can you talk about that experience as a filmmaker, as an actor, and shooting all these locations in all these countries?
Well, you try to find places that, I mean, first of all, I mean, with a visual medium, you know, it's a kind of interweaving of text, music, visuals, the story, dialogue, people. And, you know, you want places to feel evocative of what the scene's about. That's where it begins. So if it's tense, you don't want to be in a room like this. If there's tension, you want to be in a room that has a very low ceiling. And you try to convey these things that we all as audience feel. And I found Asia a very exciting place to go. And the ultimate thing is that, you know, is that you know, a location that makes the scene come to life. If we can make the scene come to life, then it comes alive for all of us. For the actors walking in the room, they look out the window of like the Hong Kong safe house, and they see all this life on Kowloon. And it's really there. It's not digitally put in, and we're not looking at a green screen where the gaffers put up a piece of tape and said, "You see that piece of tape? That's not really a piece of tape. That's the rest of the street. This is the real thing. We're really there. You're really seeing that out the window." And you walk to work, and you walk up the narrow staircase and all the smells and everything else, and that's really the place. So that, because we're all real complex organisms, we're all perceptually way more brilliant than we even know we are. We take everything in, and all these great actors take all of that in, and they really feel they're walking on Wusong Street in Kowloon to their safe house because they're walking on Wusong Street in Kowloon to their safe house. You know? So those are the kind of decisions. For the end of the film, it became, what's the most alien landscape? These two fugitives who are very much underdogs and being hunted, but nevertheless are hunting with improvised weapons and everything else. What's the most alien landscape I can imagine to put them in? And that became, you know, Jakarta and that ceremony.
Really extraordinary. Any of you want to comment on that, on traveling and working in all these countries?
One of the great things that I learned from Michael Mann about location scouting was the best way to do it is in a helicopter. That's something he told me. He's like, Leehom, you gotta know, and if you ever want to do location scouting, go up in a helicopter. And he spent so many days up in a helicopter in every single city, and then when he'd see something that struck his fancy, you know, he'd go check it out. And so that's why there's so many really, really cool locations. I mean, I've been to Malaysia so many times over the last 20 years, Hong Kong, but the places he found, I was like, how did you find this place?
We looked at about 30 of them. That's how we,
yeah.
Chris?
Yeah, I mean, Michael's right. You know, you could shoot in the back lot of LA somewhere in a parking lot and mock it up, or a green screen, which I've had plenty of over the years, but you have a visceral, physical response to being in those places, and the sights and sounds and the smells just bring something else out in you, and you're not having to fake that or imagine that. It's there, and it becomes as much an actor, something you bounce off, as the other people you're working with. You know, so it was such a treat to work in those places, which, you know, were loud and noisy, and I remember a lot of the time the sound guys worrying about, we can't shoot this, we can't, you know, there's too much noise, and Michael said, no, just keep going, this is great. And so it sounds unlike anything else, you know, it looks like anything, unlike anything else, and I wish you could always shoot like that, you know, and it was great.
Well, I'd never been to that part of the world. I loved it. And, you know, the location is another character. It really is. It can't be recreated on the sound stage. Yeah, you can imagine it, but I'd rather not. But the heat, Kowloon, the noise, everything was just different. It just was a different world that I know for myself, as imaginative as I feel I am, I would not have been able to go there. I had to be there. And that safe house, it was just the closed-in space and being with all these people and the sounds and the life going on outside. And it was pretty extraordinary. It's, like I said, it's a character in and of itself. Yeah.
Oh, when Leehom said a helicopter, I remember when I was in Singapore, I was sitting in the room and wait, and then I see a helicopter and heard about Michael is going to do some like searching some location or something, and then it just passed, and then after a little while, passed again, and then passed again. How many circles it turned in the sky? I want to ask. Yeah, just I see you all the time, and also, yeah, for me as well, the little plane, the little plane with Chris, we were in,
Yeah, you mean the King Air?
Yeah, in Hong Kong.
Yeah, I'm talking you mean the plane?
Yeah.
Wait.
I just, wow. When we were in the sky for probably more than half hour, I'm asking, where's Michael? And they are still haven't left the ground.
They were in the King Air, flying out of in the scene where they're flying out of Hong Kong, and we were in a helicopter shooting it.
Yeah.
And we shot it.
Flying up beside us.
Lots and lots.
But
and
actually,
all of our
you're
families.
so far from the plane. How can you see us?
Yeah, we didn't shoot that on the ground or a set. We were in the plane up there.
Yeah, we both.
With him flying by.
Yeah, we almost got sick.
Sick, yeah.
We were just holding.
We're doing laps because when Michael.
And I remember I was because I passed several times of my office. Not my office, my company office is in Kamjong. So, and then I started sending message, hey, can you see the plane? And they said, no, okay, wait, we will pass again. Finally, I see you. Something like. And also, probably this is the first movie I work, and there's no all real set. Because all the other movies I work with some studio or something, the fake set? 布景, how to say that, yeah. Mm-hmm. So that's really, really nice. Mm-hmm. And it's really important for me to believe it, just like with you for actors, yeah. So nice. I wish every movie I can do like this.
Well, on that note, I just wanted to congratulate you and thank you so much for being here today. Michael, is there anything else you wanted to say?
Right. So I was going to say, is there any more time for the last question from any of you guys? Okay.
I just wanted to ask you guys, Mr. Mann, you can start by talking about this. We're so used to China being an adversary, perhaps, and what I love so much about this movie is we worked with China, as much as we could.
Right.
And how important was that to you and anybody else on the panel that could talk about that?
Our relations with China are this fascinating balance where we're adversarial with them in some areas, naval presence, cyber intrusion. We're very close partners in trade and finance, and it's a balance between these two kind of sets of relationships we have that are maintained. We're China's biggest trading partner, they're ours. So it's very interesting. And one thing that's interesting is when the Obama administration asked China for help with North Korea on the recent attack. It's kind of something that we thought, way back when, if there was a common interest or something in parallel, that, they would work together. That was the basis of that, of why we have this kind of American-Chinese informal liaison group. I didn't understand the thing you said. Sorry.
She's asking is the uniforms.
Yeah, they were. They were authentic. Everything you see in the movie is authentic, basically. Even the code that you see on screens when we're programming. And I just want to comment on this gentleman's question about, yes, it was extremely refreshing to be able to play a white hat hacker. And you know, in the world of cyber, there's the black hats who are like the cowboys, you know, back in the Wild West. The black hats are the bad guys, and the white hats are the good guys. And Chris and I are white hat hackers, and we're trying to find the black hat. And you know, it was great. You know, most people were assuming, oh, you're a Chinese guy in the Michael Mann film, playing with Chris Hemsworth. So like, are you the villain?
Well, thank you so much, and congratulations.
Thank you, folks.